Downtime in the ring.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Downtime in the Ring. This week, we have one of the owners of Phoenix Championship Wrestling. We have a man who we've heard a lot about, and if you've seen a previous guest of ours and a big name around Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, he has put this man over many, many times. This man was part of a story that we got thrown into. We didn't even know this story was existing. We have one Dom Vitalli here today. Hello, sir.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys tonight.
Thank you. So when I said we had a wrestler put you over time and time again, I think you know exactly who I'm talking about. We had Tommy Test just talk about you constantly. That's one of our favorite people. That is a mainstay to Downtime in the Ring. We're always working with him. We're going to work with him here October 5th when P1P puts on Test of Strength out in Las Vegas, New Mexico. And we didn't know that you were attacked by Kevin Koa.
Oh, yeah, a long time ago. And first, let me preface this, Donovan. I don't know if I'm going to say as many nice things about Tommy as he said about me. No, I'm completely joking around. I know for you guys, it was hard to get Tommy to shut up, probably. And believe it or not, when he first started training under my tutelage, it was the exact opposite. We could not get him to say a word out loud in front of people. So to say Tommy's come a very long way since he first started in wrestling is an understatement. And I can't overstate how proud I am of that kid and what he's done up to this point. And he's only a baby in the world of professional wrestling, and that's scary. And I mean that in the best possible way, because this kid has a work ethic like no other. He truly, honestly loves professional wrestling. He's also, which I think is one of the most important things, always willing to listen and learn, and he doesn't think he knows it all. And that's especially these days, that seems to be a big hurdle for a lot of young wrestlers to get over, because a lot of wrestlers are given a lot very soon, and they automatically think they know everything or more than they actually do. To Tommy's credit, he's one of those guys that will be ears open and willing to hear the good and the bad. And I'm the type of coach that's always going to lay the bad on you no matter what, because that's how you get better. But I'll always tell you how to get better after that, as long as you keep your ears open. And Tommy is a prime example of that. So that's as much as I'm going to put him over this whole show. I just hope you're okay with that.
Oh, I'm fine with that. So he talked about your, like a pro fighter camp is what he said it was like. It was like training at the PC. He said that your school is intense, and it's intense for the good reason that you're trying to make professional wrestlers, not just guys who are just going to do this maybe every once in a while. Can you explain that a little bit to me? Your mindset, how you developed your workouts that you did, just making it brutal.
And yeah, on the surface, it is brutal, but everything we do, I tell this to everybody, everything we do for a reason. And it may not make sense when you're doing it the first time, but as time goes on, that light bulb always goes off. You're like, oh man, that's why we were doing that one thing that I just thought they were torturing us for. Now it's applicable. Everything we do is applicable to the ring at some point. But for me, before we've been open, we've had the Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center open since will be 6 years this March. And before that time, I had popped into different places and, offered my assistance or expertise, and I throw that in quotes if you want to, over the years, just to offer my suggestion. But I've also, been a sponge myself over the 20 plus years that I've been in wrestling, and I've learned a lot, and I've trained in different areas, different styles. So I gathered a lot of what we do, not just myself, but one of our co trainers and my tag team partner, Gabriel Gallo. We just kind of cultivated this regimen with all the skill, all the knowledge that we've accumulated over the 20 plus years that each of us has been in the business for. And when we opened the school, I wanted it to be specifically for folks that want to do this for a living someday. Now, not that there's anything wrong with people that want to do it as a hobby or be a weekend warrior, that kind of thing. That's all fine and well. And if that's someone's goal, fine. But what I tell people before they even start with us is, if that's your goal, we are not the right place for you. And the reason for that is everyone that trains with us regularly is doing this to get a job at the highest level someday. So if you're coming in with a part-time mentality or a hobbyist mentality, the guys and girls at our facility will eat you alive. They'll chew you up and spit you out. You will just never be able to keep up. You'll never be able to compete. And it's nothing personal. It's just a matter of what are your goals? What are your realistic goals? And I try to make that as clear as possible to everybody as well. Be realistic about what you're getting yourself into, what your capabilities are. It's a very tough conversation to have with people on the front end when I interview everybody before they even start with us, just to make sure that I would even allow them to even attempt to start with us, because we want to make sure we have the right people. And you'd be astonished how many people walk into that room and sit down with me and have never done anything athletic in their entire life. And that always boggles my mind, because where you watch pro wrestling, do you think, I've never done anything athletic? I can do that though, because I love it. And yeah, everybody loves wrestling. But one of my favorite things to say is wrestling is for everybody. Yes, it's for everybody to enjoy, but it's not for everybody to take part in. And that's the honest truth. So back to the structure of our regimen, it's done in a manner where if any of our guys and girls, once they're fully trained, can get an opportunity anywhere and be able to slide right in and do anything at any athletic level. So what we like to pattern our training regimen after is the performance center, because to me, that's the elite. That's the top of the food chain in wrestling training. So what I'd like to do is train our guys as similarly to that way possible. So if and when that time comes and they get an opportunity to go try out at the performance center, they're already used to doing every single thing that they are going to ask them to do when they get down there. My other job is to coach them and train them to become a high-level athlete, because as you guys probably know, a lot of the athletes that WWE is bringing in right now are former collegiate athletes, track and field stars, Olympians, wrestlers, CrossFitters, all these different things. So my athletes have to be trained to a level to compete on an athletic level with them. And that's why we really harp on things like the conditioning. It's a huge part of our training. And we can get into the weeds of that a little bit later, but that's a huge part of wrestling that's lacking right now. You would never believe how many stories I hear from all my guys and girls that go on the road on a regular basis, and they go, I've had an 8-minute match, my opponent is just laying there with their tongue out and can't keep up, and I'm not even going at a fast pace, I'm just trying to have a match. And that's concerning to me. And that tells me there's a lack of quality training out there. And that's just one facet of it. But yeah, I know on the surface and from an outsider standpoint, I know a lot of people, maybe, disparage the way we do things, but I always say that, the results speak for themselves. We have really refined, high quality athletes that are very well skilled in the basic fundamentals of wrestling and are sought after out at different places, and are respectful and understand the business and respect it. And that's all I can ask for.
So especially, the way that you've trained these wrestlers, and then you go on, and what I can assume is you tend to keep in contact with them because of the talent that you've had coming back to shows, one being Hammerstone, who's made waves in professional wrestling as of late. And if they didn't know who he was back in MLW, shame on them. How does that feel that you have big names who have trained with you and now they've gone on? I know for most or for every coach, that's like the dream, but do you hold on to that and you're like, well, we've had him before, or you're like, all right, cool, but now I want 5 more. I want 10 more. I want everybody on the majors.
Yeah. Honestly, my goal as a coach for me is, I tell all the guys and girls, I don't want you here forever. I want you to leave. I want you to go somewhere bigger and then tell them you came from here, and that's I want the most for these guys and girls. And of course, when you come train with us, as long as you upheld the standard that we held you to and that we hold everybody to, you're always a part of this family. So I've had guys, and girls over the years come in and train and move elsewhere to go continue their wrestling career. And I always keep in contact with those folks because they left on good terms. And, like I said, once you've been in the trenches with us, you're a part of us forever, to some degree. So I'll always give those people like a Tommy Test, who no longer lives in the area, but he had the trust in me to uproot his entire life and move out here sight unseen to train under me. And that goes a long way. And I feel like, I don't take that lightly, and I didn't take it lightly when he was here. So I'm always, in contact with guys like him and other people that are doing their thing elsewhere now. And we've been fortunate, we've had a lot of guest trainers and, come through the center over the past 6 years. Hammerstone is a great friend of mine, and he's an occasional coach down at the center, when his busy schedule allows it. And, he's the guy that's doing it, man. He's out there. He's at this point, he's been to the top, WWE and elsewhere, nothing to shake a stick at. TNA, MLW, those are huge milestones for a lot of wrestlers. A lot of wrestlers would kill for those opportunities. So I would be foolish not to have a guy like Hammerstone come in and just offer whatever it is that he can to our students when they're there. But the biggest thing for me, man, is it goes a long way if one of my guys can go somewhere and someone asks them, and it being someone that's made a lot more money in wrestling than I have, ask them, where did you train? Where are you from? And they say they train under me, and they go, oh, okay, I know you're legit then. To me, that's one of the greatest compliments I can get. Or when people recommend our guys from our school, when you get a guy like, the first person to even endorse us was Kevin Sullivan. And it was because I painted a very clear picture to Kevin about what we were planning to do. And mind you, I already cultivated a personal relationship with him before this. So it wasn't just some Tom, Dick, or Harry off the street throwing this at him. I earned his trust and his respect. And I laid it out for him. And he's like, that's the way it should be. That's the way every place should be. And then, over the years, other, guest seminars coming through, and they go, wow, like, you guys got it really figured out. Like, this is the way every school should look. To me, I could say we're the best all I want, but I always say when it's guys that have made millions of dollars in this business that are saying that we know what we're doing, I don't need to say anything else.
So in that regard, I know, doing my research, I know that you also had a hand in training Sydney Zimmer. Maxine Dupree.
Oh, yeah,
Maxine Dupree. And early on, when she was main roster, there were often comments about she's too green, she's not doing well, she's not hitting her cues correctly. Is there any comment based off of that as you as a trainer compared to someone like I'm gonna be flat out honest about that. I was one who was like, hey, she's a little off on her cues, she's a little green. What's she doing? Maybe she should go back to NXT, quote unquote, the famous quote, and go from there. What are your thoughts on those kind of comments, being one that helped train her to get to that tryout, to get to where she is currently?
Yeah, with Maxine, man, you just knew right away she had it. She was a very capable athlete, a very intelligent woman, and I think that is an asset that'll take you very far in wrestling. Intelligence, actual intelligence, which if you stick around wrestling long enough, you realize there's a lot of fucking dumb people in wrestling. And pardon me, I don't know if I can swear or not on this.
No, you can.
But there's a lot of fucking dummies out there, man. And she's obviously intelligent, obviously very athletically gifted, and just working with her for the little time I was able to prepare for that tryout, you just kind of knew she had something special. Now, it seemed like she was they fast-tracked her onto television as far as not only just her character, but in the ring, and I think there's good and bad to that. Good being you really never can get a good sense of what your capabilities are until you go out there in front of a live crowd. You have to have that experience. Now, wrestling on national television for the biggest wrestling company in the entire world, having your first or second match is a little bit different. So I don't want to say that they set her up for failure, but I think, if we put our wrestling fan hat on, we're foolish to think that she was going to go out there and just be the next Bryan Danielson or something like that, Mm-hmm. But to her credit, she didn't let that rattle her, and she continued to work on her craft. And I know she was there, behind the scenes and on their off time training in the ring, trying to get better. She wasn't the type of person that was like, okay, I just laid an egg and too bad, I'm Maxine Dupree, take it or leave it. but I also get their vantage point from wanting to put her on TV because she's extremely marketable. And wrestling is much different today than it was years and years ago, where you have to be, ready to go in the ring before you're on television. And, even though they have that vehicle of the Performance Center and NXT to cultivate talent, she's got something special, man. So I could see why they just put her on TV and kind of say, okay, let's see what we got and work from here. And as much as everyone was clamoring about how she's not ready and she needs to go back to NXT, fast forward to where we are right now. I think she's killing it, man. She just had that short little match with Ivy Nile a couple weeks ago, and I was very interested to see what she could do. Now, granted, it was a very short match, but I think she did great in that little role, that little time frame that she had. To me, that shows growth. It shows more experience. It shows confidence, and it shows that she's not afraid to go back out there and put her best foot forward. And I think she killed it. And I think the sky's the limit for her in wrestling. I think she's so unique that she's going to have the capability to do a lot in wrestling, and not even just counting the in-ring piece.
Who on your roster now, because I know you do have a roster, especially because you have a big show coming up, that you are very privy to, that they have a very bright future? And I know every coach says, well, everybody I've ever trained has a very bright future.
Sure.
That's kind of the go-to answer. But, you do have at least those one or two people that you're like, please keep a good head on your shoulders and just keep working. Who is that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just focus on the ones that have a lot more experience than the others, because obviously we have some young up and comers that I'm like, wow, this is going to be interesting to watch, and I don't want to jinx them at this point or give them a big head, so I won't mention them. But I think the ones off the top of my head that stand out, Zamaya is. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she's something special, and she's very unique. She wrestles in a way that I wish most females would wrestle, which is believable, because a lot of females that I see out there are very unbelievable when they wrestle. And I don't mean that in a good way. Zamaya will kick your fucking dick in the dirt and laugh about it. And she's in there every night competing with the guys at the highest level. Don't take it easy on her. And she gives it right back. She's got a unique look. She's got a great work ethic. She's a smart kid. She's a sweet kid, even though she looks scary as hell. I think the future's bright for her. We have guys like Class, Devin Reno, Grizz Brody, Kevin Koa, all dynamite in the ring, all different styles as well. Although Reno and Class seem to be married to each other at this point, which is a match made in heaven or hell, depending on who you ask. But I may not agree with some of their personal antics, but as far as in the ring, I'm not going to discount or discredit that. You can't, and I think those two together, whether as a tag or singles, you're going to see them on national television before you know it. You talked about Grizz just being a freak of nature powerhouse who's got charisma that you just can't teach. You got a guy like Kevin Koa, who definitely wrestles a different style, more that Japanese influence, but it's legitimate Japanese influence. You can tell he knows what he's doing, whereas a lot of guys just kind of cosplay the Japanese thing and it looks stupid. His is legitimate, and I've been on the receiving end of it, so I know it's legitimate. And then how can we forget Tommy Test? Again, with such a unique, I don't want to say gimmick, because it's not a gimmick. That's him. I think that's the best part of it. He's just so over the top, but it's so genuine. I think he's only scratched the surface about what he can do in wrestling as well.
We've gotten to meet almost everybody that you said except for Grizz. We have not gotten to meet Grizz. Mm-hmm. Class and Reno, they are a interesting duo together. Zamaya, yes, it was awesome getting to see her against Gypsy at P1P, and then we saw her make her Duke City debut as she walked to the ring with Jaden Monroe. Yeah, you should be proud. I mean, all of these guys and girls, they're going to do amazing things, and it's awesome that we get to interact with them and get to see them here at this point before, who knows what a year or two will bring for each and every one of them.
I should even mention a kid like Jaden Monroe. I didn't mention him, but he's a baby. He's like less than a year experience in wrestling itself as far as actively wrestling. And I'll give him full credit. He is the person that got through our program the fastest ever in 6 years. He is a naturally gifted athlete, and he can do things that others could only wish they could physically and athletically do, and he does it with ease. And once he gets his feet under him, once he gets more experience, once he starts working with more consistently with guys with more experience than him, like he's going to be really good as well.
Absolutely. Like he is, of course, money. But let's get into your history with professional wrestling. How long have you been in the business in total?
Wow. So I started training in December of 2000. Yes. So pretty much after high school, it was like, what am I going to do? I love wrestling. I'm going to go be a wrestler, So I think I had my first match in like March of 2001. So I've been doing it ever since then. And, the past, I want to say 3-4 years or so, I've kind of pumped the brakes quite a bit and, just kind of taking a step back, and I'm not out there actively trying to get matches, places and things like that. It's that time I think is past me. My passion now is training guys. I hate the word passion. I shouldn't say that. I think that word's overused. I think my purpose in life now in wrestling is training guys. But yeah, I came up on the East Coast. I'm from upstate New York originally. I trained out there, and until about 2006 or so, I was wrestling along the Northeast. Then I transitioned myself out here to Arizona in 2007. I've been out here ever since, and just been rocking and rolling ever since then. And in 2009 or so, I met my tag team partner, Gabriel Gallo, and we formed the Keepers of the Faith tag team, and we made a pretty good name for ourselves everywhere we went, across the country. And I've had a chance to do a lot in wrestling, wrestle a lot of different people, a lot of different styles, go to a lot of cool places. To me, the coolest part is just having been able to cultivate all those relationships over the 20 plus years, where I feel like I have a good name with people that matter. That's the biggest thing. Because it's great if, the fans like you, or any Tom, Dick, and Harry goes, oh yeah, he's good. That's awesome. But for me, my professional fulfillment comes from guys I grew up watching, I grew up admiring, can vouch for me and say, hey, you know what you're doing. Hey, you got a good crop of guys there. Hey, go to Dom. He'll guide you the right way. Like, to me, that's my version of making it at this point in my life. It's like, all right, like I used to watch that guy on TV. Now I'm like a peer to him. That's cool to me.
We've had different coaches on this show. I love interviewing coaches. I love picking your brains. And sometimes we have certain coaches who are like, I watch the product today, but only with my students. And it's kind of more film review. Is there something in modern day wrestling that still gets you to pop like you were a fan before you started?
It was funny because when the school opened, I really wasn't watching a lot of wrestling regularly. I just didn't have the time. We were trying to build a business, and all my extra time was put into that. Now I got to pump the brakes. I just had a baby who's going to be 8 months old coming up here soon. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So I kind of had to take a little bit of a step back from the training center and kind of reduce my schedule a little bit. So when I'm stuck here at home, and I say stuck, I don't mean that in a bad way, but when I'm here with him and his mom, who my wife is in the business as a ring announcer, she loves wrestling, so she always wants to watch it. So I'm kind of stuck watching it now, which I think is good and bad. There are some things that I like, and there's a lot that I don't like. For example, I can't get through an episode of wrestling that's on Wednesday night. I can't. To me, it's fucking stupid. And I'm sorry, it just is. But again, they're making millions. I'm not. Who the fuck am I? But when I'm fucking smacking myself in the head 15 times over the course of a half an hour, that says something. Now, to me, I love story.
You're Darby Allin.
Don't ever say that. All due respect. He's a nice guy. But that just the garbage wrestling shit, the fucking death match dumb shit. Any fucking idiot off the street can do that. I can teach any fucking monkey how to hit themselves with shit. But it takes real skill to actually be a professional wrestler and tell a story, which brings me to the parts of wrestling I do like to watch, which is good storytelling. The matches are a catalyst to telling a story. And I think a lot of people lose focus of that and forget. And a lot of places, I think, in people lose sight of who their audience is. And what I mean by that is you got a lot of independent wrestling people that are stuck in the wrestling bubble, and they wrestle and they put these events together like they have fucking national television. And you can't tell stories like that if you don't have fucking TV, real TV, not fucking cable access TV, not YouTube channel TV. I'm talking real TV. So I just laugh when I see stuff like that. But bro, look at fucking WWE, man. They're just killing the fucking game right now. And that the reason that they are where they are now, as opposed to where they were before, when everyone was crapping on them and business wasn't as good as it was now. It's one reason why they are where they are now: storytelling. That fucking bloodline storyline took them from the depths to the fucking peak that they are at now. And they just built off of that, and they realized, oh shit, storytelling works, especially long-term storytelling. Let's go with it in other aspects. And they don't fucking hit a home run every time. Nobody does. But goddamn, the show's way more enjoyable to watch now than it has been in the past. And I can, I'll sit after I wrap up with you guys. I'll go sit with my wife and my baby and finish watching Monday Night Raw and not want to fucking kill myself after.
It's a lot different from going off to seeing. I won't mention the participants, but a storyline involving a $1.50 friendship bracelet compared to a one-off Mimosa Mayhem match, so.
Right?
It's funny that you say like you don't like deathmatch, you don't like all that, especially where you're from, the East Coast and the Northeast. That's primarily deathmatch wrestling, or unless I'm wrong, like isn't that kind of the crowd to it?
I think now it is. I mean, Combat Zone was a thing. I don't know if it still is or not, but the Combat Zone was on the, based out of the Philly, New Jersey area. That shit never enticed me, man. To be honest with you, because I always looked at it like it's just the fucking fat guys that don't know how to wrestle that are doing it, or it's the fucking guy that looks like he works at the fucking gas station pumping your gas, thinks he's a wrestler and he's doing it. And I think it's weird when I see guys that actually have skill and have a look do it. It's so strange to me because they don't have to do it. Maybe it's just like one of those things that they just want to check off their list to say they did it. To Matt Cardona's credit, he did it, but he fucking parlayed it into something else and more, where he did it smart, where a lot of these other fucking morons do it weekly and they don't make any money on it and no one knows who the fuck they are. And their bodies are all scarred up and fucked up from it. And no one gives a shit about them. It's a car wreck. Everybody stops on the freeway to look at the fucking car accident. They don't care about the people. They just want to see the fucking gore and hopefully maybe there's a fucking arm on the freeway. Same thing with these guys. They just want to see them fucking carve each other up. They don't give a shit. They're not emotionally invested in it. And it's such a niche audience that you can never grow from that, And I'm all about growth, whether it's professional or personal growth. If you're going to do something, what are you going to get out of it? Where do you go from here? But yeah, I mean, I guess it was a thing on the East Coast. And don't get me wrong, man. I've had TLC matches and shit like that, ladder matches and stuff like that. I ain't fucking jumping through glass and stabbing myself or somebody else with a needle and all this dumb shit, man. Like I said, any asshole can do that, and that stuff's not selling huge buildings out, plain and simple.
You got really passionate about that. Is that kind of how you are with your students?
I tell no, it's a good question, Donovan, honestly, man, because I always tell my students, I'll never tell you where you can or can't wrestle. That's your decision to make. It is your body. At the end of the day, who the fuck am I to tell you what you should or shouldn't do with it? But I will give you my opinion if you ask for it, Yeah. And it's kind of like learn from my mistakes. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't do death matches and shit like that. But I made a lot of fucking dumb mistakes throughout my 20 plus years. And, you know, and I don't expect the kids that I train to take every bit of advice from me and follow it to a T. Sometimes they got to make their own fucking mistakes to learn from them. And I'm okay with that. But at least I can just say, hey, here's what I know. Here's my experience. Do with it what you will. I love you either way. I support you either way. Just don't fucking get hurt. Don't hurt somebody else. But yeah, I just never want to like throw my beliefs on anybody and say it's my way or the highway to an extent. You know, obviously it is my way or the highway when you're training with me, but not as far as like wrestling philosophy goes. Because I got a lot of guys at the school that that came into the deathmatch stuff, and then when we started training, they realized like, oh, there's really no skill involved in that, and they kind of swayed their perception a little bit. I got a lot of guys I train that love AEW. And I'm very vocal that I do not, and they don't, and that's okay. And I still love them, and I'll still train them the same way, you know. So, and that's wrestling. And it's the beauty of wrestling too. There's so many different flavors, so many different styles. You two guys may like, you know, different stuff, but me and Chris may like the same thing. But Donovan, you don't. And at the end of the day, we're all wrestling fans, right? As long as that $5, $10, $20, $100 is going towards wrestling, that's a good thing.
I completely agree. I wish more people would be like that, that at the end of the day, it's wrestling. We all love it. We just have our own different flavors. Let's get a little bit, actually, let's wrap this up and spend the last little bit of time on the promotion, on Phoenix Championship Wrestling, on your big show that's coming out, because Two Scoop said this is like your mania. Am I correct?
Yeah, for the most part, it's our biggest show of the year, which in turn, ironically enough, is turning out to be our biggest event ever. So this will be our sixth or seventh year. 2019 was our first event. We come a long way since then, man. You know, we've completely changed the way we operate business, and it's been for the better. We're the largest independent promotion in Arizona right now by far. The second place, whoever that is not even close at this point. And I don't say that to be cocky or conceited. I say that out of pure factual math. Yeah. It's just the way it is. Because it's the way we do things, and we do things the right way. And I do think there is a right way to do wrestling. And it's a credit to everybody that's put in their efforts over the, you know, especially since the training center has been open, because we've been running the events since before the training center was open, but we really started taking off after COVID was over, and we had a good crop of guys trained up and ready to go, and they really all stepped up. And the success of Phoenix Championship Wrestling lies primarily on the shoulders of every man and woman that has come through our training center and is actively still there doing their part. They've created something special within our community where people are emotionally attached to the wrestlers on the event. They're not going there to look for a car crash. They're not going to see what the next high spot is. They love the wrestlers they love, and they fucking hate the wrestlers they hate. And I think that's another beauty of what we have at Phoenix Championship Wrestling is the vast majority of our fan base are not diehard wrestling fans that watch wrestling 4 nights a week. They probably know WWE, and that's about it. We get them through the door. We tell them a good story. We don't insult their intelligence with shitty wrestlers. They're all well-trained and believable and know what the fuck they're doing. And people go, oh, you guys do the real wrestling. Yes, we actually fucking do. Where other places, you know how it is. People go like, oh, okay, it's all right, wrestling. You know, oh, that kind of was shitty, but whatever. We don't get lumped into that, which I think is good. So we built a fucking very loyal fan base over the past 5 years since COVID came back. And, you know, our draws have consistently went up, and our regular venues that we operate, we, you know, sell out is about 600 or so. This event, we're going to pack in 1,500 people at this new venue for this event, which we already have 1,200 tickets out. So that'll sell out. And it's, again, a testament to the guys and the girls and what they've done, how hard they work. And I think the biggest factor is they're bought in. This is their company as much as it is mine or John Wolfgang's or whoever. It is theirs, and the success or the failure of it lies on their shoulders just as much as ours. And we're a fucking team. We are a family. We are in this together, whether sink or swim. But my kids know we don't fucking sink. We always swim.
And your main event match is it's Class, isn't it, against Wolfgang?
Yeah. So Class has been our heavyweight champion for over a year now, undefeated in singles action in the history of Phoenix Championship Wrestling since he's been aboard. And he's just kind of been doing his thing, kind of, beating everybody that's been put in his way. John Wolfgang and him have a very storied history. They've been kind of at each other for well over a year as well. And it's interesting. It's this weird dynamic where you have a guy like Class who's like a legitimate psychologist. He's well off, he's wealthy, he's intelligent, he's good looking, he lives in Scottsdale. He's that guy. And John is a legitimate fucking blue collar guy from the White Mountains who, grew up in a poor family and has kicked, scratched, and clawed for everything that he has. And he represents, not to use cliches, but the common man. And the fans connect with him. They love him. He has such an immense following. And on the other hand, Class, fucking everybody hates his guts, and rightfully so. He's an asshole. And that's what you're supposed to do. Hate the asshole and like the fucking good guy. And the crowd does. And John's been chasing this title for over a year, and he's come up on the losing end a couple different times. And the last time they met was a couple months back, and they went to a 25-minute time limit draw, and he had him beat, and the time limit ran out. There's a couple times before that it was a 3-way, and John didn't get pinned. So he's had all these opportunities that he hasn't made come to fruition, and this is his last chance. The main event is there must be a winner. So this time there is the bell's not going to save either one of these men this time. We have to have a definitive 1, 2, 3 or a tap out or whatever, and we'll finally get to the bottom of this and see who the real champion is.
I really love the amount of care that you've put into this entire rivalry and the amount of care that you're putting into this show. Now I'm very excited to kind of want to attend the show myself, man.
Yeah, and that's that feeling that you have, Chris, is the exact feeling that we feel in the building every event that we have, because people are, what's going to happen next? Oh, I can't wait till this. And it's, and don't get me wrong, we as human beings only have so much mental bandwidth, right? So on a card of an event with 8 matches, there's not going to be 8 different stories that we're telling. That's asking too much of anybody to have that much emotional investment. But there's a couple different stories that, intertwined in our events that people really latch onto. And come, I just want them to come to that door just like you, Chris, and have that feeling, man, and just be like, I cannot wait to see what goes down tonight. And then after that last bell rings, ideally, I want them to say, I can't wait for the next event. Let me go get my ticket right now.
And you, speaking of events, you have a match. And you have a match against one Devin Reno in a street fight.
Yeah, unfortunately. Depending on how you want to look at it, Donovan. Unfortunately. So this was my hand was kind of forced in this one. So kind of circling back to one of your original questions, I have had some interaction with Kevin Koa in the past. Him and I haven't always seen really eye to eye. Talk about ungrateful, a guy that was under my tutelage and just kind of really spat in my face as far as everything I tried to teach him. So him and I kind of went at it for a little bit. And I want to say it was like last September, actually. I actually lost the loser leaves town match to him. And being on the receiving end of his famous steel chair is never fun. So that was okay. Hey, when I lose, man. I'm not the one to make excuses. So I was okay. That's fine. Like, I'm going to step back and just do my thing behind the scenes. I'm not going to I need a rematch. I was screwed over. I don't need any of that shit. I'm fucking 42 years old, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. So I was just doing our thing. And then Devin, he's kind of gone off the deep end, I would say, over the past year or so too, and aligning himself with Class. They have kind of the same personality or mentality now, and it's not the best. And I actually trained a young man named Jimmy House, who is pretty popular in the jiu-jitsu and powerlifting worlds. And he was set to make his actual debut for us in Phoenix Championship Wrestling a couple of events ago. Unfortunately, he suffered a pretty rough knee injury and had to have knee surgery. So he wasn't able to make the match. So Devin decided to take matters into his own hands and insult Jimmy in front of his friends and his family, and essentially assault him by kicking his crutch out from under him while he's just trying to address the fans why he couldn't compete that evening. To which, obviously as a professional, I'm trying to hopefully let cooler heads prevail, and myself and some of our other security had to kind of go out there and separate the two. Now, to my fault, maybe Devin said something to me that I felt was over the line, maybe a little bit too personal, that didn't need to be aired out in public. And one of my faults maybe is that I have a pretty short fuse, and things got physical with me and Devin, and I had no intention of it going that far, or getting to that extent. And I had no intention of getting back in the ring. And there was John needed a partner at our last event, and it took a lot of coaxing on his part to get me to agree to it. And obviously we had to get the permission of Kevin Koa, because he's the one that essentially held the power there, because I lost and I had no right to come back. For whatever reason, he agreed to it. And then I think he just wanted to see me get beat up, to be honest with you. And John and I, we did our thing, and that was it for me. But somehow, some way, Devin and I got matched up for this match coming up here on the 28th of September. And I don't think a ring can contain it, with just general rules. I don't think so. So the street fight seemed like the only logical answer to this. It's the premise that him and I both agreed to. And to be frank, dude, I'm going to fuck him up, man. That's what it comes down to, dude.
I like it.
The kid is extremely talented, but he's got some fatal flaws, and I'm going to smack the fucking shit out of him. Plain and simple.
Clip that. I clipped that. I'm telling
you, I said it on this show before in our lives. Every bald person is an asshole. I'm telling you.
Hard to argue that, right? Yeah.
Oh.
But I'm going to treat that motherfucker like I'm his daddy that should have whooped his ass when he was little. I'm going to fucking take it out on him. And that's not just for me, guys. There's a lot of people in that locker room that are looking forward to seeing that, because he's treated some other people very similar to me, or if not worse. So I'm not doing it just for me. I'm doing it for everybody in that locker room.
You're doing it for all of Albuquerque too. You're doing it for Rio Rancho, bro.
Seriously. I've heard the stories, man.
Yeah, speaking of Albuquerque, you are a DWO heavyweight champion, a 2-time champion. Go ahead. No, I was going to say, I used to refer to myself as the Southwest heavyweight champion at one point. Because I held the DWO heavyweight title in New Mexico. I held the heavyweight title in Texas, and I held one in Arizona. So I was like, well, I got all fucking three at once. I'm the Southwest heavyweight champion. There you go. I like it.
Oh, dude, that's badass. Well, we're going to have to continue this. Hopefully we'll be able to make a trip out to Phoenix one of these days. Come sit down with you. We would love to shoot a video of your school, maybe have a sit down. The second part of this interview live in person at your school. That'd be kind of cool. If you're down for that. Where can everybody find Phoenix Championship Wrestling? All their socials.
So Phoenix Championship Wrestling is mainly active on Facebook and Instagram. You can find on Instagram at PCWAZ. You can also find the training center, which is the Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center, under that name on Facebook, or at TrainInAZ on Instagram. Just look up the hashtag TrainInAZ. You'll see all of our stuff there. And I'll be doing. I'm going to start doing some occasional videos and things like that on that Instagram page for any potential, future wrestlers, or doing some advice for current wrestlers, that type of thing. And if you want to check me out, you can find me. I'm mostly on Instagram at Dom Vitalli, also on Facebook, but I don't really use it that much.
Okay. Sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our talk with Dom Vitalli of Phoenix Championship Wrestling. Head over to the socials if you guys actually want to train and become a wrestler, because I know he's not afraid to train anybody nationwide. Just come on down to Phoenix, learn how to be a wrestler, and who knows where your future will go. And we will see each and every one of you in the next video.